We Unitarians of Lake Norman are an open and inclusive congregation. Our members walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united in our belief in the inherent dignity of all people and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Andy Smith, and I have been an active member in this congregation for just about a year, and a former active member of a UU church in Cherry Hill, where I was active with the youth groups and the choir. Today, Reverend Pat will speak to us about making time near our birthday. As a relatively new member, I'm looking forward to what Reverend Pat has to say and what you all think about who we are, what we do, and how we can do more. We start our services and other activities by lighting a candle inside of a chalice, and speaking words that call us to this occasion. Please join me today in saying the chalice lighting words, which are in your order of service. We light this flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be fair and loving. And in loving, may we find peace. Reverend Pat has open words for us.
Did that one die last week?
No, I took it home and it was over the edge. Yeah. I took it home. It was just loose. What?
I checked it out.
We're getting another one.
Good, yes, it
You should be serving like you cross.
Pretend.
I've been in many UU services where we have to light a virtual chalice. Most of you have a copy of this 4-page story, Invisible Children, Endless Waiting. It's written by Barbara Randolph, who many of you got to say hello to today as we did a wedding for several members of the Zambrano family. Only 2 of whom were getting married. The rest of them were there to celebrate with the bride and groom. But it really changes the energy around the work we've been doing for this family to have them in the Quaker Meeting House to do a wedding for 2 of them, and to have so much joy, and to have the smallest member of the wedding party take cookies not only for herself, but from everybody else in the party. So that was wonderful. But this story I commend to you, as heartbreaking as it is, because it is illustrative of how awful the deportation system is. There is an 11-year-old boy in this story who is in custody for 364 days. His sister said they had been in custody for a year, and he said, no, sis, it was 364 days. So he's very interested in accuracy. But it is a heartbreaking story, and I appreciate your taking that home with you. And if you have any communication with our representatives in Congress, please let them know this is absolutely unacceptable. And I know many of you have been following the Delaney Detention Center in New Jersey and know what kind of awfulness is coming out of there. And we feel powerless because so many of our representatives are supportive of ICE and the immigration system, but there it is. You're going to hear more about what's wrong with the country when I get around to the sermon. The opening words are from Marcus Aurelius. They're very simple. He said, dig within. Dig within. There lies the wellspring of good. But as is so often my habit, I'm not going to be content just to give you opening words. I have to tell you a joke. And the joke is one I've told here before, but many of you have forgotten it, and Martha's never heard it. So I want you to think about the subtlety of what we're dealing with when we think about the life of the Spirit, when we think about morality, when we think about responding as a religious organization, think about the subtlety of what we're dealing with as I tell you this joke. Little town out west, back in the bad old days, the word began to spread that Big John was coming to town. Well, all the children were gathered up off the street, all the houses were shuttered, the doors were locked. Only one bartender remained in the bar. And all of a sudden, a cloud of dust rose on the horizon, and the biggest horse that anybody had ever seen began to thunder into town. Boom, boom, boom. And the biggest man that anybody had ever seen was riding that horse. And got off that horse, walked into the bar, and ordered a whiskey straight up. And the bartender's shaking hand took the bottle up to the edge of the glass, and it clinked as he poured out the whiskey straight up. And this giant of a man slammed a silver dollar down on the bar. And the bartender said, well, would you like another? He said, oh no, Big John's coming to town.
Please listen now as Mike takes us into a state of contemplation in preparation for listening to the reflection. Because of the nature of this centering music, I would like to request that there be no applause following the music. If you'd like to show your appreciation, you can wave your hands like this. And now Pat will share his wisdom with us.
So sorry, Tracy Grimm is not here. because she often wonders if I recycle sermons. So here's a joke on me. I was looking for this sermon among computer files, and all my sermons are marked by the date. So I found one that was dated June 7th, which is today. And the title of it was 50 Years From Now. It was a sermon I delivered 11 years ago today to another congregation. I am not going to be using that same sermon, but mark one for Tracy Graham. When I was first ordained, an examining committee asked me what I would talk about in my sermons. I told them that I believe we are all loved and that we need to find ways to love each other. Since they were still looking at me after I said that and not saying anything, I added, and I'll try to find a different way to say it every Sunday. They seem to be content with that. Here's another joke on me. Miriam Davidson was the music director at the Greenville UU, and she said so many UU ministers mostly talk about themselves, and that I do not. Well, the joke is that today I'm going to talk about myself. I wish Miriam were here. 1993 was the year I told that ordination committee that I believe we are loved, and our job is to find ways to love each other. That was 33 years ago, or roughly 44% of my life. But you need to understand that I was speaking in services from the time I was 12 years old. I urged people to feed the hungry, as we do at Feed NC, clothe the naked, as so many of us do when we take donations to local thrift stores, visit the sick and in prison, which so many of us have done, and make peace. Make peace. Making peace right now is the big challenge. The big challenge. Thank goodness, for the most part, we are peaceful here in this room with each other. And that is such a good thing. From what I understand, we are mostly at peace with our families and friends. You just heard Greg talk about the peace that he felt out in California with both of his daughters and his grandchildren. The occasional dust-up that we experience as a congregation gets over with pretty quickly. We love each other. We respect each other. We accept each other. It's powerful. But our truest challenge today in living a peaceful life is to know that our president is severely mentally ill, and his illness has cost thousands of lives and rounded up people in trucks and put them in concentration camps. Don't take my word for it. Mitch McConnell, who was once the Senate Majority Leader and a big supporter of President Trump, now says we are living in Germany, 1938. Now, as we, as a congregation, celebrate our 16th birthday, I've asked you to think about where we might be 5 years from now. This is not easy. 2 weeks ago, I asked you to consider that the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. Words I took from Max Ehrmann's poem, The Desiderata. Some folks took exception to that. They said, no, the universe is not unfolding exactly as it should. But being Unitarians, we have the good manners to disagree without being disagreeable. Those of us who hunger and thirst for justice are part of the universe unfolding exactly as it should. Not only are the wars and the deportation policies horrible, but our objection to them is part of the universe unfolding exactly as it should. We are dealing with wars, incarcerations, medical malpractice, and hunger brought on by the politics of our current government. These are all part of the universe unfolding exactly as it should. If you're curious about what I mean by medical malpractice, consider that the North Carolina General Assembly, just in the last few days, voted to raise the copay for Medicaid, which is used by poor people, from $4 to $35. Now, if you know poor people, and I know a lot of them, $35 may as well be $35 million. Their cash flow is often strapped, and if they have to take $35 with them to the doctor's office, they just won't go. And that's going to save the government a lot of money. And then some of them are going to die, and that's going to save the government a lot of money. How have things changed for me since my first ordination 33 years ago? One son was born during that period, and 4 foster children came along. 2 of those foster children, now well into their 40s, are still part of my life. All 4 of those foster children convinced me that there is no more important work on the planet than raising children in loving homes. And at the risk of embarrassing her, I have to tell you that I got to spend 2 hours with Jane Pope's grandchildren the other day. Lord have mercy. You want to talk about 2 children growing up in a loving home. The contrast between those 2 children and these foster children I lived with is so dramatic. It's like they don't even live on the same planet. Now, I know not all of you grew up in loving homes. I understand that. But you overcame those obstacles, and you put on your shoes, and you showed up here today. So I am very, very grateful that you decided to be part of a liberal, activist congregation that believes deeply in loving kindness as a way to live a good life. Next Saturday, June 13th, will also be a dog fence build day, but it is our official birthday. But we're celebrating today. We're celebrating Gail Bertucci, and we're celebrating each other. One Christmas, my 3 biological children, 2 of my foster children, and my stepdaughter were all gathered in the den of our home. As sad as it is to recall, I think that is the only occasion where all 6 were together except for my daddy's funeral in 2011. At the Christmas gathering, I started harping on how awful my narcissistic daddy could be, how he was always the most interesting person he had ever met, and loved to be the center of attention. My Coast Guard son said, "Okay, if we will admit that you have been a better father than he was, can we talk about something else?" Yes, I was embarrassed, but also delighted that I had a son who felt the freedom to talk to me that way. I would never have spoken to my own daddy that way. It was both a horrible embarrassment and a victory lap. But what does any of this have to do with June of 2031, 5 years from now? We hope that a Democrat will be president. And we hope that he or she will not be an idiot. We hope that our congregation will still be meeting here. We love it here. We still may need to accommodate some more growth, but today looks pretty good. I hope that all the cookies are eaten.
And if they're not, they go home with you, please.
And if they're not, they go home with you, please. Maybe we will find new ways to serve. Maybe a nursing home or a daycare center will get the occasional visit from us. Maybe we will have a choir. We have a number of people here who have sung in choirs. All we need now is somebody to organize it and schedule rehearsals. Well, that didn't work. But keep it in mind. Think about it. Think about it. As Billy Graham would say, look deeply into your heart. We are very good at social events, like the one last night at Linda's house, especially as auction items. We definitely need to continue promoting and expanding those social events. They are clearly the lifeblood of our congregation. Now think about that for just a second. Social events are clearly the lifeblood of this congregation. It's not true of every congregation, but it's true of this one. Opportunities to be together, enjoy each other's company, These are chances to laugh together, to sing together, to tell stories together. This is who we are. Sometimes it shows up at a movie Tuesday. Thank you, Linda Heidberg. And other times it shows up as a chance to build a dog fence. I don't know where those guys are today, but maybe they're out building a dog fence. But in each case, the value, the reason to be, the accomplishment, all revolves around the great feelings we have to be with each other. As you know, there is more to it than that. But we would make a huge mistake if we did not mark the passage of one more year in our history with delightful joy in our social connections to each other. Now, the overblown ego and sometimes outrageous confidence of one who speaks here most Sundays began this effort determined to talk about Descartes. I really did set out to talk about Descartes, who began the trail of science and reason in 1637 with his description of the scientific method. I was going to talk about a horse, but I was looking back through my text and realized I had gotten Descartes before the horse.
That's on tape, you know.
Right? Many of you are firm believers that science is the end-all and be-all of truth in our so-called modern world. I respect you and love you, but I ask you to listen to this quote from Virginia Woolf before you bet all your chips on the scientific square on the roulette wheel of life. Woolf was defending Descartes in this essay, but she added this warning: what matters so much is not the end we reach as our manner of reaching it. Truth is various. Truth comes to us in different disguises. It is not with the intellect alone that we perceive it. Not with the intellect alone that we perceive it, he said at the risk of overstating the obvious. Truth is to be perceived with all our faculties. Are we to rule out the amusements, the tendernesses, the frivolities of friendship because we love truth? Will truth be quicker found because we stop our ears to music and drink no wine and sleep instead of talking through the long winter's night? It is not the cloistered disciplinarian mortifying himself in solitude that we are to turn, but the well-sunned nature, those who practice the art of living to the best advantage, so that nothing is stunted, but some things are permanently more valuable than others. Good old Virginia Woolf. She was no romantic zealot, as I am. She was clear-eyed and thorough in her willingness to look deeply into the dearest questions of life. But even in her defense of Descartes, the cynical philosopher who led us to believe in little more than meat and clocks, she insisted, like Shakespeare, that there is more in heaven and earth than dreamt of in his philosophies. And that, my beloved friends, here in this sacred room, during these sacred hours among those of us who enjoy each other so much, is why I am a romantic zealot for Unitarian Universalists. We welcome all, even though it may sometimes get us in trouble. We manage even our occasional brush with trouble with the deepest respect for each other's ideas, opinions, even disagreements about what is true and what is not. Susan Cameron has baked up cookies to celebrate our 16th birthday this coming Saturday. Please don't eat them here in the sanctuary, even though I did once break that rule myself. Enjoy them. Just watch carefully for how the cookie crumbles. That's all I got, Amy.
So, come on up and give us your thoughts and questions. Well,
And remember to use the microphone. Last week's service was wonderful. I don't know how many of you were here. It was a great service. It was a great service. But Jason, in the floor, had put about 2 feet between his mouth in the microphone and then spoke very softly. So it was incredibly difficult to understand what he was saying online. I watched the service online and it was basically lost. So we've got to train all of our guest speakers how to handle the microphone and the rest of us as well.
I also watched it online with my mom's, and I had so much trouble understanding what he was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then y'all, during the talk back, didn't come up front. And I'm like, wee!
Right.
Come on front. I was just thinking that when you're talking about the social activities of this congregation and how important they are, I totally agree with this because, especially being a new person, and especially because people live fairly far apart here, that this is the only way that we can connect and get to know people and establish relationships and network. And to me, that's like weaving, like you're weaving the individual threads together to make a stronger piece of fabric. And that's why I think it's super important.
And going out to eat after.
Yes, that too.
Come on.
I think it's exactly right, but I kind of wanted to add that social doesn't mean always fun. That I get a lot out of being with this group when we work together. Yeah, the people I've met at BNC, I'm not a dog-billed person, but the relationships I see formed when we get out there and make things happen in the community is as strong as some of the parties we have.
Larry and I had never belonged to a church at all. And we came here 9 years ago and have been coming ever since. And we have moved closer to be closer to our friends here. And the reason I joined is because of the desperation and sadness I felt in 2016 during the previous regime. And I needed this so badly and still do, and appreciate it every day.
I just want to add to what Sue said with regards to the social gathering. In regards to the whole social gathering thing. During the dog festivals, we're very happy to have people come by who aren't really doing much in terms of pulling chain or fence or post, but they're in support. Passing out water, saying hello, and just being there with us. It is a great social thing and a great time to hang out. So come on out and join us.
Next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
I'm Jim, and I'm also a dog fence convert. Wasn't going to be my source of statement, but I'll second what Greg said. And what's the best part about doing it? Watching the dogs run outside in a widely spaced enclosure with a tarp for coverage, a dog house, toys to play with, no collar because they've all been on chains, having a great time. Come share that.
Yeah.
Next weekend. And I'm a person of science, and
You like Descartes.
and doors. I certainly believe that science is the end all be all because it isn't. A classic statement in medical school, tell me if I'm right for this for you, Dr. Blum, is the professor who says, half of what I'm telling you is wrong. I just don't know what happened.
That's right.
The guy who came up with the idea that there was a bacterial basis for gastric ulcers was dismissed at the highest levels of organized medicines until he wasn't. He was wrong. The beauty of science is It's an open exploration. And that's why it's the end all be all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat. After, it appears that the Department of Defense's recent wiping us out of existence is not going to be successful,
Oh, good.
along with most of their other stuff.
Yeah.
When we're talking about forming a community, a strong community, I think that, yes, the fun social things are great. The working together is great. But I also have to put a word in for the chalice circles, where we meet and not just socialize, but we talk about things that really matter and leave time for silence. And I just found them to be a magnificent way to get to know people. And I also hope that in 5 years, we'll be even more a community that finds that balance between strengthening the ties between us and using that strength to help the community around us. Because that's one of the things that attracts me very much to this congregation. And so I'd like to see that grow even stronger.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to Kim for mentioning Stephanie. I was on the phone with Stephanie this morning, and I started naming everybody in the congregation who has come to her aid, who has given her rides, who has brought her food. It really has been an outpouring of support for her during a time in her life when she is transitioning from being able to work a job to not being able to work a job. And her application to Social Security is ongoing, but anybody who's ever been involved in that process knows that getting disability income is a real challenge. The other thing I want to say, Jim, about the dog fences, that is a wonderful part of building a dog fence, seeing the dogs run in freedom. But the other part that I think is so important is it exposes us to a lot of people who live in poverty. And that's a group of people that many of us don't see on a regular basis. But when you're on that property, when you're with those homeowners and you realize that they don't just need a dog fence. Now, Alan is very emphatic that dog fences is what we do. We don't do anything besides dog fences. But when you see that level of need, when you see the kind of poverty that people live in here in the land of the free and the home of the brave, it blows your mind. It really does. And Jeff, I guess you know the humanists were on that list that got struck from the Pentagon approved list as well. Not just the Unitarian Universalists. It's so bizarre. I think that does it,
I
Andy.
think so. All right, so Mike, you're up for our musical reflection. And we will listen and see reflects on what we see today.
I'm gonna do G for gun, G for gun.
And then you
Got to. No.
He's playing his own song. Okay.
What else is new? It's in G. Raise your voices if you dare. There ain't no heat that we can't bear, no. Let your spirit drown the cup. Wash you down just to lift us up. Don't you think that we could put we could set some sights. I believe it, don't you believe it? I think it's gonna be alright. Are you ready for the change? Get ready now, tired believers washed ashore. You join the race and close that door. But you were there when I was young. Breaking boundaries, I recall. Don't you think that we could put it together? We could set some sights. I think if we put it together, don't you believe that it would be alright? Are you ready for the change? Get ready now. Step into the change. Hang steady now. Close. Sound your voices gather round. Your shattered dreams around the ground. This future world is lined with rust. Star-eyed leaders we can't trust. Hey, don't you think that we should put it together? We could set some sights. I believe it, don't you believe it? I think it's going to be alright. Are you ready for the change? Get ready now. Step into the change. Step into the change. Step into the change. Hey, steady now.
Everything's gonna be all right. This fellowship is important to us all. And contributions allow us to sustain and expand our congregation and to reach out to our community, both nearby and in the larger world. Thus, your giving affirms our commitments to each other and to the community. Today, we share the plate for the minister's discretionary fund, which is used to help those in need in our congregation and in our community. If viewers at home wish to contribute, you can briefly switch to the main page of our website and just click on the donate button.
If you want to write a check and write MDF on the bottom, or fund or minister or whatever, that way we'll know it's not your pledge, but it's for the minister's discretionary fund, MDF, okay? I'll configure it.
If you have donated today, we are very grateful. May these gifts encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. We are also grateful to all the people who make our Sunday services possible, our various community activities, and our outreach via newsletter and YouTube, as well as all of you who are with us today. And now for announcements. Social supper after this service today is
Crafty Burger, and it is
Crafty Burger. The Tuesday movie at Burkdale is The Breadwinner at 2:45, followed by snacks and conversation. Contact Linda or just show up. And as you've heard throughout this service, the Heart of Carolina's Union Animal Ministry will be building a fence on the 13th of June for 3 sweet dogs, Snow, Elsa, and Colby. It's at 2848 Corey Lane, Lincolnton. The next Feed NC opportunity will be June 11th from 10:30 to 2:30. Contact Jim Arnold.
And that's coming up in a few days. Volunteers are needed.
How many folks know that they're gonna be there on Thursday? Okay, that's plenty.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
The Union Justice NC community meets each Friday morning at 11 via the Zoom link in each newsletter to recap the past week and take action on issues impacting our state and country. They make it very easy to take action during that hour, and we need everyone to do whatever they can now. The monthly board meeting is tomorrow morning at 10:30. You can find the Zoom link in our newsletter. Also, a special thing, please see the link in the order of service to sign up for a Zoom call to get recent news on Siembra's efforts to protect immigrants in North Carolina. Siembra NC was born in 2017 in response to Trump's war on immigrants and the gap in support and resources for the broader Latina community in North Carolina. It is a statewide defense volunteer call to hear what we're seeing across North Carolina, how ICE tactics and detention trends are evolving, and how volunteers are responding on the ground. Next Sunday, June 14th, is New Member Sunday. Our minister, Reverend Pat Jobe, will be talking about the emphasis on doing rather than saying what we believe. And a reminder, there are no services in July. If you show up, no one will be here. So enjoy your summer Sunday afternoons and do something that brings you joy. Our closing song is number 123, Spirit of Life. Stand if you're willing and able.
See you.
Spirit of life, come unto me, stay in my heart, outskirts of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, giving life shape of justice, fruits only grows, wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
You may be seated. I've just been reminded that next Sunday is the president's birthday, and No Kings folks are hoping to have some things going on, but at the moment, we don't know about what's happening locally for No Kings. So I'm gonna ask Veronique to help me figure that out, and we'll have that word in the newsletter on Thursday.
There will be a bridge brigade on exit 30. It's in here from 10 to 12 in the morning. We're gonna have a bunch of American flags and signs in response to that. And then Indivisible No Kings of Lake Norman is having a virtual watch party that evening
Okay.
at 7, so that can go into the newsletter.
Okay. Will you work with Brittany to get that to Bruce? Okay. One more thing about this story, this horrible, sad story that I handed out to the congregation. This happened to a family that lives in Charlotte. This is a very local story. Our closing words come from Simone Weil. At the center of the human heart is the longing for an absolute good, a longing which is always there and never appeased by any object in the world.
We close our services by extinguishing the light in the chalice and saying the words in your order of service.
We extinguish this chalice, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment.
These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
And it makes you say it. Okay.